Tokyo, 1954. A summer morning heavy with heat. A plane touches down at Haneda Airport, and among its passengers, a man from nowhere. He carried a passport stamped and sealed from a country called Taured. But Taured does not exist, at least not in our world. And that night they locked him in a guarded room, and by morning he was gone. No trail, no answers. Just a vanishing act sealed in mystery. This is the case of the man from Taured. On a day like any other in July 1954, a man steps off a plane at Tokyo's Haneda Airport. He looked European, spoke fluent French and some Japanese. Calm and collected, there was nothing unusual. But when asked where he was from, he gave an answer no one expected. Taured, a country he claimed was in Western Europe, nestled between France and Spain. The officers were confused. They checked their maps. There was no Taured, only Andorra. And the man seemed just as confused, as he said that he'd been to Japan many times before. His passport appeared to be genuine. It was stamped by Japanese customs previously. It was issued by the Taured government, and there were dozens of entry and exit visas from across the world. He also carried a checkbook from a bank that no one had heard of, a driver's license from Taured, and some business documents bearing the name of a company that didn't actually exist. Officials were baffled, but the documentation passed the initial scrutiny. Unsure how to proceed, they detained the man and placed him in a nearby hotel, under guard. The man was cooperative, polite, calm, completely convinced he was telling the truth. Officials questioned him for hours. When shown a map of Europe, he confidently pointed the location of Andorra and insisted it was Taured. "It's been there for over 1,000 years, he said. "How can you not know my country?" To him, the world was wrong, not his documents. His business trip, he claimed, was routine. He'd been sent by a company he'd worked for years. But the company didn't exist. Neither did the bank that issued his checks. His home city was unfamiliar, his national ID unreadable by any registry. Still, everything about him was composed, grounded, real. He wasn't lying. At least, he didn't think he was. That night, he was placed in a hotel room, top floor, secure. 2 immigration officers were stationed outside. The door was locked, the window, several stories up, sealed shut. There was no way out. And yet, by morning, he was gone. The room was undisturbed, the bed unslept. No signs of forced entry, no escape route. Even his documents, passport, checkbook, ID, vanished with him. The guards never left their post. No footage, no sound, no explanation. Just gone. A man from nowhere returned to nothing. The story of the man from Taured has no official ending. No arrests, no identity, no trace. Just a question. Who or what was he? One possibility, he came from a parallel world. In his version of reality, Taured exists, right where Andorra is in ours. He landed in our world by mistake, and found himself surrounded by strangers who'd never heard of his home. And perhaps he slipped back the same way, without warning, without trace. Some believe this was an early echo of what was now called the Mandela effect. A glitch in reality where timelines blur, and memories from one world bleed into another. Maybe Taured existed, just not here. A country erased by time's edit button. Skeptics argue it's nothing more than an urban legend, born from misreportings and internet myth-making. A mix of an actual man detained at a Japanese airport, embellished over time. No official police report, no media coverage from the era, just fragments, second-hand retellings, shadows. And then, there are those who believe he was real, and that he proved something dangerous, something governments weren't ready to explain. And so the story was buried, documents sealed, and records scrubbed. The truth classified, lost, and erased. Decades later, the case still lingers. Passed along in late-night forums, cryptic documentaries and conspiracy signs. People still search for clues, scanning passenger records, hotel archives, and airport logs. But the truth always stays one step ahead. The story endures not because we can prove it, but because deep down, we want it to be true. That there's more to this world than what is printed on a map. That the borders aren't fixed. That sometimes, just for a moment, the walls between realities falter, and someone falls through. He arrived with purpose. A man who knew who he was, where he was from, and why he was here. But the world around him said no. The maps didn't match, the names were wrong, and so the ground beneath him fell away. They say he vanished, but maybe he was never really here. Maybe we caught a glimpse of somewhere else, a world next door, a place one blink to the left of our own. Maybe he went home, or maybe he's still moving between places, searching for a company that only existed for him. These are the stories we find in the cracks, glimpses of lives unrecorded, files with no origin, no name. This has been the Threshold Files, and some doors were never meant to open.